So today the topic is measuring feature adoption in the SaaS context, that is the software as a service context. Now, the reason I wanted to take you all through this topic is this is a very important topic in today's context of marketing analytics. Okay, it is not just so the type of the data that we are dealing with, the nature of that data is also varied and diverse. It is not just the conventional marketing or the sales or the retail data, but this is also one kind of a data that we could possibly be faced with dealing with in the future. Okay, so the kind of data that I'm talking about is basically in the SaaS context, when people use the different kinds of apps or the different features in the different apps, right? It becomes all the more important to measure this feature adoption. So this product analytics itself is a very specific field in itself, and in the current process that we are working on, I found this topic to be very, very relevant, and I just want to take all of you through it. So this is what we'll be covering in today's session. So first is what is feature adoption, then why is the feature adoption rate important, and how do we measure feature adoption. This is what we'll be looking at today. So the main objective of feature adoption is to drive retention and reduce churn. Okay, so feature adoption basically is all about if you're incorporating any particular feature in the app, then how is it being used, how is it being perceived by the users. So do the users have something good to say about that new feature? Do they like it or do they not like it? If they like it, is the feature itself driving the user usage of the app or the using frequency of the app? So that is what feature adoption is all about. And this falls into the context of the product-led growth, which we discussed a few sessions back, where we said that it is all about, in the SaaS context today, it is all about leveraging the product and its features to deliver growth for the company. Okay, so there are two types of adoption in SaaS. So one is what we call as the product adoption, and the other is the feature adoption. Now, product adoption is how well users interact with your product. Okay, feature adoption is basically about what part of the product users engage with and find relevant. Okay, so feature adoption deals specifically with certain features that you have introduced in the product. Okay, so feature adoption focuses on feature discovery and engagement. So discovery is where if you launch a new feature in the app or on the website, then do users see it and are they attracted by it? So that is what we call as the discovery phase. And then engagement is how do they use the new feature. Okay, so these are, you can call it as multiple stages in the feature adoption cycle. So you first introduce that new feature, and this is where the discovery phase comes into. So the customers who are coming to the website or who are opening the app, they will see that particular feature on the screen. So that is what the experts call as the aha moment. Okay, and then if there is any activation to be done, or this is where the users begin to use that feature. So that the first time the feature is being used, or any activation that is being done, that is called as the activated stage. And then you have the advanced stage. So this is mainly any additional features that you might have, right? So what we call as the secondary feature adoption. So that is the advanced stage. And then you have, so whoever is using the features, they propagate the benefits of the feature, they spread the good word about it, and this is where the users become promoters, and then we call them as champions. So these are all different stages which users go through when they adopt a new feature which has been introduced by the product. Okay, so let's say, for example, any website, they introduced a new kind of a service or something, right? So let's say in e-commerce today, you take something like Flipkart, they have something called as Flipkart Super Coins. Okay, so how it works is if you make multiple purchases, then for each purchase you accumulate something called as a super coin, and once you reach a certain number of super coins, you can redeem those super coins and avail discounts on the products that you purchase. Okay. Now, how this works is that super coin feature will be introduced when it is introduced for the first time. It will be advertised on the homepage. Okay, and the company might choose to roll out that feature to all the customers or only to a specific subset of the customers. Okay, so who are all those people who see it? And out of those people who actually activate that super coin feature or start using that super coin feature, that is what we call as the activated stage. So this is the super coin usage is the key feature. Okay, and then secondary feature adoption mainly is, let's say you can assume it as the redemption of those super coins while making certain other purchases after some time. So typically how it works is when you accumulate those super coins, you can't use them immediately, but you can use them only after some n number of months or something. So this is to retain the customers during that time period. So after that initial time period ends, how do you redeem those? How many people redeem those super coins? So that is the secondary feature adoption. And then people use that feature, redeem those coins, and then they talk to their friends about it, their colleagues about it. They say that this is a new feature that has been introduced by the company, and it has these benefits, so I would recommend you also to use it. So this is the stage when the users become the promoters, and we call these users as the champions. So these are the users who drive growth for the company as well as the customer retention for the company, because if the users basically like the product, they're going to talk to about other people about it, and also they're going to continue to use the product on a regular basis, right? So both your user engagement as well as growth, both of these metrics are influenced. So this is an overview of the feature adoption, or the basically general definition of feature adoption. Any questions?
Sai, in general, how can they identify the champions or the users becomes promoters?
So, so when everything is driven by the app, right? So everything is being recorded. So for example, a user might come onto the website from, let's say, by clicking on a Google ad or LinkedIn ad or something, or they might come via a referral code, right? Or let's say, for example, I'm using that particular product, okay, and I might be incentivized to make other users join that app or sign up on the website, right? So these users, what we call as the network users, or this is what we call as the network effect. So people who are already using the product, they will make other people come to the platform and use the product. So these are one specific users, what we call as the network users. Now these users are different from the organic users. So organic users or organic growth is what you call as the natural growth for the company. So without any referral or whatever, so they might just do a Google search of your company, or they might have seen an advertisement somewhere else, and then they come onto the platform. So since everything is based on the clicks and the browsing behavior, all of the activities are tracked, including where the user comes from. So there is something called as a UTM channel. So UTM channel or UTM pathway or UTM tag, which records from where the user came. So based on this, they can distinguish between those users who have come via the referrals or the existing customers and those who have come organically.
Okay, and this is for a application point of view, right? Like now the chart that we are seeing is for a specific feature. So champion is for complete application, and the rest all changes are for a particular feature, right?
Yeah, you can say that, or even you can possibly narrow down the champions to a particular feature also. So for example, see a website, let's say it has something like different types of memberships, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say one new type of membership has been introduced today, and you have signed up for that membership, and you get a referral code for that particular membership. Okay, so when you share that referral code with your friend, and when they join using that referral code, the company will know that this referral code belongs to that particular membership program, and they also know that that particular membership program or feature has been launched, let's say only in the last week. So like this, they can attribute it directly to one new feature that has been introduced.
Got it. Yep.
Or let's say even, so one other example here could be same supercoin kind of example, right? You might have seen offers that say you join during, so let's say you launch that coin feature today. Okay. So the offer can be something like, if you join anyone who joins within the next 7 days, they get some 5 coins free in their account. Right? So that is directly, so users who join based on that scheme, they will also be attributed to that particular feature which has been launched.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's all.
So what are the benefits of this feature adoption? First is increased new user activation, and then users who join, they use the product or the feature continuously or in a repeated manner. So this, what it basically means is it translates to more value for the users, because if the user is using it more frequently, then it means that they are finding something useful in it, there is something that they like about that feature. Okay, so that is what we call as the more value, and ultimately this will result in lower churn rates for the company. Okay, and another benefit is to push more users down the user journey. Okay, so feature need not necessarily be a new membership program or that coin kind of thing. Okay, it can also be something as simple as the button which you click to navigate to one particular portion of the website. So I think I was in discussion with a few of you last 2-3 weeks back. So this particular customer that we are working with right now, they introduced a new user journey or new user flow to navigate to one specific portion of their website. Okay, and they wanted to see how effective that new design was or that new user experience was. Okay, so when you design a new feature and when you measure those metrics, you also try to measure whether the user has navigated the entire user flow which you intended. Okay, so initially maybe the design might not have been very attractive to the users, but the new users might have been more attractive, so that so let's say for example any form that has to be completed, right? So you have changed the user journey for that form, and maybe this new design makes the customer or compels the customer to complete finishing up the form. So that is what we mean by this point: push more users down the user journey. And then achieve expansion revenue with upgrades. Now again, this is very related to the SaaS context. So in the SaaS context, we measure the recurring revenue, right? Annual recurring revenue or the monthly recurring revenue. Now here, that revenue is classified into different types. So new revenue, or people who have been with the company already, and people who have upgraded the kind of subscription that they're using. So that is what we call as upgrades. So achieve expansion revenue with upgrades. So let's say I'm using a free membership right now, and I'm upgrading to a paid membership. Okay, so has the feature played an important role in making the user upgrade his or her membership? So that is the last point. Any questions? Okay, so first thing, before you actually measure the feature adoption related metrics, the first stage is design and implementation of the features. Okay, and especially in the design stage, your focus should be on number one, customer need, followed by feasibility, accessibility, and usability. Okay, so customer need is basically, if you're planning to introduce a new feature, will this feature actually be useful to the customers? Do customers normally expect this in an app, or is it something that will not be of use at all, that will be of no relevance to the customer? So first you have to evaluate the need for the new feature that you're trying to launch, and then the feasibility. So this is mainly the technical feasibility. So if you're planning a new kind of a user journey, or a new design of your app or a website or a new user experience, is it technically feasible to develop that user experience? So that is the feasibility part of it. Then comes the accessibility. So again, if you're changing the user experience, how easy is it for the users to find it on your app or website? Now again, this relates, this is, the people who I did those experiments with a couple of weeks back, so they might relate to it. A lot of us were struggling to navigate to that particular portion of the website which our client had launched, and so this is an accessibility issue, because we know that the feature has been launched, okay, and we also know that the feature is there on the app or the website, but we don't know where it is, and we spend a lot of time trying to find it. It might not be in a very prominent portion of the website, so that is the accessibility part. And then the usability. So let's say, for example, a new membership scheme has been introduced, and in order to sign up you have to fill up a form, right? So after navigating to that particular form section of the website, how easy is it for you to fill up the form? So all of the fields that are there, is the messaging clear? Do you know what details you have to give? Or have all those details or all those questions, have they been communicated clearly to you? So all of this comes under the usability aspect. So when you're designing the launch of a new feature, these are the points that you should focus on. Okay. And then these are certain rules of thumb that you have to follow. Use different navigation colors to highlight new features, and this is something a lot of websites do as well. So let's say, for example, e-commerce websites, when they launch a new product, right? So that product alone will be highlighted at the topmost portion of the website. So this is a very common principle that is used in user experience today. And then drive feature discovery via in-app announcements and secondary onboarding. So onboarding, the term onboarding refers to the joining up of the customer on the platform or on the app or on the website. So that is the first onboarding that happens, right, during the sign up. So that is what we call as a primary onboarding. Okay. So the new feature that we have introduced, do people actually use that new feature? So that is secondary onboarding. Okay. And we drive this secondary onboarding via the in-app announcements. So the messaging apps today, even in Zoom, I saw that just a couple of days back when I updated the Zoom client, I saw a new feature called as the whiteboards feature. I mean, the whiteboard was there previously also, but I think previously it was there only when you're inside the meeting. But now it's like when you open the Zoom application itself, on the very top there's a separate button that has been added for whiteboards. Okay. And after I made the update, the very first time I opened the app, it had a small pop-up beside that button saying, we have introduced this new whiteboards feature which you can use to collaborate with your team members. So that is what we call as an in-app announcement. Okay. So since they made that pop-up appear on the very first page of the app, I was able to see that new feature immediately when I opened the app. So that is what we call as the feature discovery. Okay. So this comes under the implementation part of it. So you have designed the new feature, you have evaluated the need for the feature, you have designed it, and how do you launch it? How do you make it visible to the customers? So this is how. So using the different navigation colors, driving the feature discovery via in-app announcements. Okay. And then next point is set feature adoption goals and A/B test different in-app experiences to determine which works best. Now, feature adoption goals is basically, let's say, for example, you take something like a Facebook, right? So if a customer signs up on the Facebook platform, one goal could be something like, so see, the main feature of Facebook is the social networking feature, right? So adding friends, sending messages to friends and so on, right? So if the user has signed up on the platform newly, within the first 1 week, have they at least made 10 friends? So that could be one feature adoption goal, because adding the friend is a feature in Facebook, okay? And adoption is basically how many people use that feature, add friend feature. So the goal could be something like within first 10 days of sign up or first 1 week of sign up, they should have added at least 10 friends. So that is an example of feature adoption goals. Or let's say, for example, you take something like Skype. Okay? So within 1 week of signing up on Skype, they should have made at least 5 calls to 5 different people. So that is one more feature adoption goal. Okay. And then A/B test different in-app experiences. So I'm sure you must be familiar with this concept of A/B testing. So there will be an original design of the user experience which is currently existing. So this is what we call as the A, and then there could be another alternate flow of the user experience, what we call as the B, and these two A and B pages will be exposed to two different groups. So one will be called as the control group, which will be exposed to the original flow. Then there is another group called as the test group, which will be exposed to the new flow. Okay. So they will measure in a span of 10 days how many people visited the original flow, how many people visited the new flow. So in an e-commerce website, if they do this kind of thing, then what is the conversion rate of the old flow and the new flow? Is the new flow more effective in improving the conversions? So this is what we mean when we say A/B testing the different in-app experiences to determine which works best. Any questions? Oh, let me move on. So next part is what we call as the feature adoption funnel. Okay. There are 4 stages to this funnel. So first is called as the exposure stage, and then the activation stage, and the usage stage, and then the repeated usage. Okay. So exposed is basically when we say that the user is first learning about the feature or first seeing it on the user interface. So this is the numerical metric corresponding to exposure is basically the number of users who know a feature exists. Okay. So they might come to know about it via an advertisement, or they may come to know about it via personally visiting the website. And then activation stages where the user tries to engage with the feature for the first time. So out of the total number of people exposed, how many of them tested or activated the feature? That is the second stage. And then third stage is usage. So this is user is successfully using a feature. Number of activated users who then go ahead and use the feature. So this is basically the funnel, right? So each number is you can express it as a percentage of the number that you have above. And then used again. So this is nothing but the repeated usage of the same feature. That is number of repeated users out of total number of users. So these are the basic set of metrics that you will use to measure the feature adoption, the funnel metrics. And then there are certain other metrics for evaluation as well. You can collect the user feedback via micro surveys. Now, micro survey is different from your conventional survey. Typically in many websites you might have come across this terminology called as TLDR. So they will have a TL semicolon DR. So that stands for too long did not read. Okay. So the same applies for survey as well. So typically the TLDR is used for blog posts or long articles. Okay. But the same can be used for surveys as well. If the survey is too long, it has so many questions for the feedback, then people are not going to be interested in filling up that survey, right? But it is important for you to know what the users feel about your new feature. So this is where the micro survey concept comes in. Okay. And one classic example of this is whenever you use most of the websites today, before you close the website, right, they will just pop up a small box with that with those smiley buttons. There will be 5 buttons, and out of them you can click whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, like a star rating. Right? So this is one example of a micro survey, or it could be a series of very short questions, nothing requiring long explanations from the user, but everything what the user can select, right, based on the options that is been given. So these are all what we call as micro surveys, and you can collect the user feedback via these micro surveys. Okay. And certain other adoption metrics to track breadth of feature adoption. That is how much of the total target users use a particular feature. Depth, this basically is how often do the users use a feature. Then time to adopt a new feature. That is how long it takes from when the user has been informed to when they actually start using it. And then the duration of the adoption. For how long do customers continue to use the feature after the introduction. And then certain other metrics, number and percentage of daily active users or monthly active users. So for the SaaS, right, we don't consider, so if anybody asks a SaaS company, how many customers do you have, they will not say, I have these many customers signed up on the platform. Okay, so number of people who have signed up on the platform could be very large. Okay, but out of them, only a very small percentage might be actually using the platform in any given time frame. So that is what we say here, daily or monthly active users. Okay, so this is similar to, let's say you run a brick and mortar retail store, right? And if someone goes into your shop and asks you how many customers do you have, then you cannot say the total number of customers who you have served in the entire lifetime of the shop, right? You will only say some number which is in the ballpark of on an average how many people come to the shop daily. So that is what you will say. Okay? The same thing when translated to the SaaS context or the e-commerce context, you will read it as daily active users or monthly active users. That is, how many people actively use the platform to purchase something or make a transaction on a particular day or in a particular month. Okay. And then average usage frequency, net promoter score, we have already discussed this, and then the retention rate. So one related metric to this retention rate is the customer lifetime value. Right? So this is typically expressed as the multiplication of customer value and the average customer lifespan. Okay? So let's say, for example, the average customer signs up on the platform with a subscription fees of 100 rupees per month, right? And the average customer uses it for 6 months, right? So the customer lifetime value will be 6 multiplied by 100, 600. Okay. And if the feature that you have launched, if the feature helps drive retention, then the average customer lifespan will be increased. Thereby, the customer lifetime value will also be increased. So this is the relationship between the feature adoption and the customer lifetime value. Okay, and again, you can relate this with the product-led growth that we have been talking about. So customer lifetime value is a company-level metric, but how does your product help to achieve this company-level metric of CLV? Via the retention rate. Okay, and what drives retention rate is the features that you have in the product. Okay. And then impact on other organization-related metrics. So again, in an e-commerce scenario, let's say, now I'm talking about this from my personal experience. So they launched something called as the change address feature. Okay, so let's say you go to the e-commerce website today, and typically when you give your address, you cannot change it after that, right? When you place the order, you give the address, you make the payment, and after that you cannot change the address, delivery address for the order. Okay, and if you find that you will not be at that place to receive the order on that day, then you will cancel the order, then you will order the item again, this time giving the new address, right? Now, what can possibly happen is, when the order has been reserved and it has been dispatched, then a lot of cost goes into the reverse logistics. Okay. Now, what the company did was they introduced a feature in the app itself saying you can change the address even after placing the order. So within a certain number of days, if you have the option of changing the address so that it will be delivered to the revised address that you provide. Okay. Now, this is a feature that has been introduced. Okay. What is the organization level metric that this feature impacts? It is the number of returns. Okay. Because when you cancel the order, then that product has to be shipped back to the warehouse, right? And it has to go through the entire supply chain in the reverse direction, right? So on the other hand, if you just change the address, then that product might just be diverted to a different address. Okay. So this feature that has been introduced, that is the change of address, might actually reduce the number of returns, which is an org level metric. Okay. So like this, so I gave a scenario from a supply chain context, but like this, there might be several other organization level metrics as well, which will be related to the feature adoption. And then another important metric is something called as the product engagement score. Okay. So something similar to the net promoter score. So we have the product engagement score, which is nothing but the average of these 3 percentage values. So first is feature adoption rate, and then the retention rate, and the stickiness rate. So stickiness is nothing but the repeat usage that we talked about, right? So the average of these three metrics gives you something called as the product engagement score, which represents how people are continuing to use your product or whether they are happy with it. So any questions? Okay, so that's what I had for today.